Greetings, and welcome to another episode of Out the Box Talks. I am your host, Krill. We are here for episode 87. It is such a pleasure to be back again. I want to thank all of our viewers and listeners for checking out our recent episode with Brother Cy Martial Law. He has a new album and book out called I Still Love Her. Definitely a dope project and a really good book as well. So check for that. So like I said, man, we got a new episode today. I have two special guests on the show that I'm really excited to talk with today. Been following these two artists for a little while now. I found out about one of them last year, and the other one I've been hearing about for a long time. And she has a brand new project that is collaborated with this producer that is on the show today. So we're going to talk to them in a little bit. I want to shout out a few things before we jump into the interview today. However, remember, we are on our website is outtheboxmedia.com, and you can access that website to check out some of our previous interviews and our shows that we've done all the way since 2009. Everything from the video shows here on YouTube, on Out the Box TV, to our audio podcast. So, if you have not become acquainted yet, definitely go to the website, outtheboxmedia.com. We also have our merch page, which is outtheboxmedia.bigcartel.com, where we have our Out the Box Talks merch and our Out the Box Media merch in general. So we got snapback hats, we got coffee mugs for Out the Box Talks podcast, we got t-shirts, we got hoodies, all the memorabilia and the merch that you can rock to show that you fully support what we do with this platform. It helps the funds, and the money goes a long way, man. It really helps me to continue do this work without the box. Also, if you would like to donate to the platform, you can donate at paypal.me/outtheboxmedia. You can also donate via Cash App at hashtag OutTheBoxRep. Okay. Also, we have a Patreon page where you can get access to exclusive interview clips. These are clips that are only available to those subscribers who go above and beyond to support the platform. And if you become a Patreon member, you can get access to those exclusive interview clips, and you can go to patreon.com/outtheboxmedia. All of these links will be in the description of this episode, and it'll also be on the website, outtheboxmedia.com, where you can find these links as well. Last but not least, I want to also big ups the audio podcast. So most people I know tend to watch the shows via YouTube on Out the Box TV. And if you are watching on YouTube, Out the Box TV, and you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But you can also access the high quality audio of the shows via platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple. Generally, where you would listen to audio podcasts, you can find the podcast there. All right. And yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Any donation, any level of support helps. If you feel like the Patreon thing is not your thing, you don't want to do the monthly subscription, I totally get it. Although I really would like for you to check some of the episodes out, the exclusive clips out, because it's some really valuable stuff on that page. And you can actually go to the link to find out the list of the different artists that we have exclusive interviews with on Patreon. So yeah, whatever you can do to support, if it behooves you and you feel inclined, definitely feel encouraged to. It really means a lot. So like I said, we got a new episode today. This is episode 87. I'm always excited to do a new episode because I'm getting closer to that 100th episode, and I can't wait to celebrate for that. But like I said, I got a special guest on the show today. I have two guests. They are actually put out a project together. So one is a producer in this element of the project, and the other is an MC. But they both MC, right? But we're going to be talking about the new project entitled The High Priestess, which just came out a few weeks ago. The artists themselves have put out solo records and projects throughout the years. and they've also done collabo projects as well. So we're gonna talk to them today and really chop it up about this new album. So without further ado, I want to welcome to our Out the Box Talks viewing and listening audience, my sister hailing from Chicago and my brother representing, the production and the live and the MC element as well. Welcome to Out the Box Talks, Rita J and brother Neak, to talk about this new project, The High Priestess. What's
Peace.
up?
Peace.
Peace.
How y'all doing? It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Indeed, indeed. So I got so much to talk to y'all about today. I mean, really just focusing on this new album, The High Priestess. As I was telling y'all earlier, like when I heard that this project was being released, and just like the artwork alone kind of just like brought me in, because it's speaking volumes. You know how they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, the artwork matched the title. And as soon as I heard the music, I was blown away. Like I was feeling the vibes immediately. So I want to talk to y'all about that. But before we jump into the project, I want to give y'all the opportunity to just give the audience out there a little history on yourself, a brief history. So for those that may not know, tell us individually how you each got started with pursuing a career in music. What made music something serious for you all to pursue? Either one of you can go first.
I'll let you go first, Miss Rita J.
Okay. So I was always interested in performing arts as a child. And so when I got to college, I would go to a lot of poetry sessions. And that's what initially sparked my interest to like want to write rhymes and rap and whatnot. And so when I graduated, I met up with Tone Be Nimble and Cap D of All Natural out of Chicago, and they had their own record label. And I ended up working with them and like ended up putting out some work with them. And then like the ball had just kept rolling from there. So this is my third solo album. I've been MCing for like 20 years, toured overseas and whatnot. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Neat,
Yeah.
go ahead. Your turn.
Yeah. So I grew up in a household like my dad. He was a part of a major soul group in the 50s, 60s, and the early 70s called the Kelly Brothers. So I kind of grew up with it within my blood. My dad, he toured with like Sam Cooke, toured with James Brown. He signed to Federal Records. So that history of music was always in my house. And it wasn't until I got older and became a teenager that my dad started talking to me more just about the music business and, just the music culture. And, my brother, he was a producer. So I was kind of also trying to be like him in a way. So I would get up under him. He would teach me about production and teach me about, songwriting. And then eventually I just started kind of going out on the scene and started networking. And one of the first artists that I met on the scene, two artists, Sincerely Yours, Mulatto Patriot, and the Chicago Network. And I literally just met everybody from there. So everybody through those guys, I started, working and networking with different guys like Pugs Adams, Rashid Hadi, Add To, Slide A. And, we just started grinding, in a team effort from there. And from that point on, just getting out of Chicago, we started doing shows around the country, did 2 tours around the country and stuff like that. So I was able to meet, other artists in different cities and start to build more of a community and a network. And, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just still building my community and still, getting my music out there as far as I can.
That's dope, man. It's so dope to hear about the experience, in Chicago. And like when I think about your story, you guys coming back together, you know, from that city, I think that's really dope. So I want y'all to delve into a little bit about that. Like, how did y'all even meet and decide that, you know what, we're going to collaborate on a record, a full-length record?
So for me, I've I followed Rita J for a while. Like I've known about her music, and I was always a fan. And a lot of the times when I was trying to network at that time, I was still pretty new in the scene. Nobody really knew me at that point. So a lot of the times, like I would, see her on different shows, performing around the city. Also hearing about how she went out, out of the country and doing things like that. So in my mind, and she still is, she's a very big artist, right? So I'm like, how do you network and connect? And I started working on my album that I produced, pretty much the first album I produced from beginning to end. I started working on a record called "Do It for Love," and I really heard her voice on it, and I really wanted her to be a part of it. So, I mean, I just reached out and I told her straight up, like, "Hey, I would love for you to be on my album," and she was very cool. She was like, "Absolutely, no problem." We set up the session, we did the record, and at that point, I was just interested in working even more. So I just asked her. I said, "Hey, what are you working on? What you got going on?" And we started setting up sessions from there. And we would we worked on a record or two, and we started to see that we had the chemistry going. And I was like, let's kind of make it more of a routine. And then here we are. We just kept getting up weekly, knocking out records, and just kind of having conversations about where we are as artists, and what the things that we want to do. And before we know it, I'm looking around, I'm telling Rita, I'm like, "Yo, we got an album."
Mm.
you know
Dope. And I think I saw on, I don't know if it was your IG page, Rita, or it was yours, Neek, but it looked like the album, at least some of it, was recorded in person, right? Like you guys were both together.
Yeah, the whole thing. Mm-hmm.
Dope. So, Rita, you talked about being an artist for about 20 years. I feel like it's a little over 20 years. And when I looked at, your catalog, like this is your third. I know you put out the album earlier. Was it earlier this year or late last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a gap when you really think about it, right? Like, and I found myself, like, I've known about you for a while, but I always felt like I haven't heard a lot of music from you. Can you talk to me about why it's taken so long, or why you've taken such gaps in between releasing projects?
Yeah, so it's just something that I do naturally. It's never been like a job for me, like I don't have that type of structure to it. And then also who I work with, where I'm working, how all that plays out. Like I've lived in different cities, and I haven't always had the support for something like that, to do it the way I want to do it. I was kind of like out there by myself for a while. You know what I mean? I never really had a team to help. So, I never really had any pressure or any, thing like that to pump out material like that, So I just pretty much did what I wanted to do, like on my own time, basically.
That's dope. I could dig that. Nothing forced. Like, and usually some of the best work comes when you just do it naturally and organic like that. So I could respect that. So, Neek, when I listen to this album, the beats on this album really complement Rita's vocals. Can you talk about what you think created the atmosphere for you all to both have like a successful chemistry in the recording?
I think for me, I think the reason why the chemistry was there and the music was tailor made was, number one, she wanted to do it. So the desire was there to work and get in the studio and really like create like an energy around, the songs in the album. I think number two was the conversations that we would have. So we didn't just start working on music, coming in the studio and just started working. we had a lot of conversations. So we would talk, we would discuss, you know, kind of where we are emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So I was able to kind of understand musically where sonically where it should go. Um, and I think the fact that we did it together was important, and not like, for example, I'm sending her files and she's sending me vocals, because at that point in real time, I was able to decipher whether she liked the music or if it was I had to go back to the drawing board. So that was kind of like all of those elements combined together, I think, made for a great synergy and for a great project.
Yeah, you know, and as you just said, you had to decide whether she liked the music or not. It leads me to
Yeah,
the skit
that's
that's on.
important.
Yeah, it makes me think about the skit that's on the album. I'm forgetting the name of the track, but it's a skit. I think it's something to do with like whack beats.
No,
Right, no whack beats.
Nowhere.
And you hear Rita kind of giving her opinion. How much of that actually happened in this actual real recording process? How much of Rita was like, you know, she had her producer hat on?
Yeah, there were no whack beats at all. I think I might have passed up on 2 beats just because like I was, you know, so excited about the ones I already had. So yeah, I just it was pretty instant. Like I knew, you know, we was on to something when he would be just up there like making the beats. So
Nice.
Yeah, because the music was 90% of the beats were made on the spot.
yeah.
You know, it wasn't like I was sending her music. You know, as I was making it, the energy for the song was already being created. You know, but that was kind of just like a play on the fact that a lot of times producers try to force records on people. You know, like, hey, you need this, you need to rap over this. This is what's hot, and not taking into consideration where the artist is. Like, how do you even know that that fits where the artist wants to go? You know, so you know that's kind of where that came from.
Indeed, indeed. Can you talk to me about the album title, The High Priestess? Like, what was it about that title that resonated with you for this album, Rita?
So the High Priestess for me is about using my magic, using my powers, stepping into my higher self. And it's also a play on a tarot card. And it's just, yeah, it's like being a magi, you know what I mean? And so I'm just leveling up pretty much.
Got it, got it. Nice, short and sweet, but to the point. I like that. So the intro to the album it's really a dope intro. You know, like some albums will start off with just bars, right? Or just going straight into the lyrics, and you kind of just hear Rita talking on the track. But I feel like it sets the tone for the message of the album, right? Or what the core of the album is supposed to represent. On the intro, you say you were away from music. You never quit. You never gave up. Just took some time to reorganize and set yourself up for bigger and better. Let me say, I first want to commend you for taking care of self, but I wanted to ask you, what does it feel like getting that reset and coming back to your music career after the self-care and the healing? How does that feel for you now?
It feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels wonderful. It feels fulfilled. I feel abundant and I feel fulfilled because I am still doing this. You know, we know a lot of people our age, you know, were doing this when they were teenagers and whatnot, and it was just like a pipe dream, you know what I mean? But I'm like actively in my craft, and that is to be honored and respected.
Dope, dope, dope. So I want to actually get into some of the songs on the album, right? As you can see, I started with the intro, and I tend to like to go through some of the lyrics or some of the themes on the album. So one of the tracks I do want to talk about is Mad as Hell. And there's a line on there where you say, Rita, not press for the press, media and yes men took time to invest in my future is my best friend. Then you go,
Nice.
you know, and so forth. Tell me why the future is your best friend. Why do you say that?
Because it's like the future is something that you can look forward to, and that's what gives us the hope and the excitement and the joy of living, right? Is to be able to live the next day. Like, oh, I'm raising my children, or I'm with my family. You want to live to see more days, and so that's pretty much, yeah. The future is my best friend.
Yeah, and it makes sense, because I feel like with this reset and with everything that's going on in the world today, like a lot of us are thinking about the future, right? And we're thinking about it. I mean, if we're really serious, we're thinking about it, about making some serious changes, right? So we can still be here and continue to progress. So I could dig that, making the future your friend, and,
Yeah.
getting comfortable with what's to come in a positive way, at least. So another line that stands out on that same track, Mad as Hell, I just had to, bring it up. You say, not what is it? I think there's a line where you say there's other aspects to the line, but I'll just go with it. I'll just go with the one that stands out the most for me. You say, some dude snatched your studio, had you feeling hella moody, yo. Think of shaking booties, bro. Of course I edited. You said another word, right? But that made me think about that, right? Like especially as we think about like rap culture and it being embraced by a lot of women and even men, as a sort of a freeing and liberating thing, for women entertainers, in today's climate. Like I wanted to get at your core thoughts about that. Like, why do you say you're sick of seeing chicks shaking their rears?
Because there are so many other things we could be focused on. You know what I mean? Like, use your brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many other options, and so it comes down to respect and accountability and just showing up for yourself and your highest self.
Indeed, indeed. How do you like? What motivates you to just be like, you know what? I don't care what anybody else is doing. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be confident in what I have to say, regardless of what other women may be doing or how other people may feel. Like, what gives you that confidence to stand on that?
I would say it's just how I was raised. You know what I mean? Like, I was raised that way, and everyone should stand in their truth. You know what I mean? So it's just something that was embedded in me to be unapologetic, pretty much.
Indeed, indeed, and it's valuable, right? I want to again commend you for that because we need music like that, and we need people to keep it true to themselves, right? I think that's the only way the music progresses, or one of the main way the music progresses when people stay true to themselves. So respect to you for that. So I want to jump around. I got more lines that I want to get to, but I want to come back to Unique. You have, I know last year you put out a project called In Instead. Am I pronouncing it right?
No, in instead.
In Instead. I knew I was gonna have a problem pronouncing that, but it was like last November you put it out.
Yeah.
And it was really dope as well. And when I was looking at your catalog, I saw that you had also put out 2 live albums. Talk to me about how your experience as a producer, and just having that experience doing live albums impacted the work on this particular project.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think the most important thing is finding the right sonics to fit around the artist. For me, it's easy because I'm dealing with me as an individual. So whether I'm picking beats from other producers or if I'm making it myself, I know what I like and I know it gets me going as an artist. But it takes a different skill set to be able to take that to someone else, because you have to get to learn them, you have to get to know them, and you have to know what makes them go. You know, as an artist, especially someone of Rita's caliber who's used to dealing with top level production and used to, you know, and is a very potent writer, you know, I'm thinking to myself, what are those sounds and what are those sonics is going to bring the best out of her? You know, so with my experience producing for myself, I kind of understand a little bit more about just on the basic level, the rhythmic part of the beat, you know, the synergy part of the beat, what's going to really bring those lyrics out of a person, you know. So kind of taking that experience into this project, it was just really just kind of me keeping an open mind and an open ear to kind of just experiment and do anything, you know, not come into the session with a lockstep idea or an idea that's kind of set in stone. It's just kind of like, you know, hey, let's experiment. You know, I would have records all over the floor and I would just pick one up, you know, put it on, and we would, you know, kind of going through it, and we'd hear something, and, you know, we'd give each other that look like, ooh, like we got something. Whip it through the MPC, start working it, and then just kind of letting the vibe, you know, do its own thing. So I think, you know, the key is just staying open and, you know, and staying unrestricted and just letting whatever happens. Because if it doesn't come out well, you can scrap it. If it comes out great, keep going, you know, but there's no pressure, you know.
Did you have any moments where your MC viewpoint kind of took over and said, you know what, I could probably give Rita some pointers here, or you know, just in a friendly way though. Like, I know, Rita, I know you can spit, I get it. You know what I'm saying, but like, just adding on, like, did you have any moments where you felt like, yo, maybe I could lend a little direction based on what I know as an MC?
Not at all. She didn't need it. When I say that she's a potent writer, she's a very potent writer. She would come back to the studio with the record already done. Now, as far as like different arrangements on the production side, then that was on me, you know, dropping the beat here and there. You maybe repeat a chorus here and there. But as far as the writing and the direction and the, you know, you should say it like this or operate it like that, absolutely not. She already had it ready to go and knew exactly what she was doing. I was actually learning as she was going. I was like, oh my God, that's how you write that chorus? Okay, cool, thanks. Appreciate the insight. But on a serious note, you know, she didn't need anything, man. She knew what she was doing, you know, from the jump.
That's what's up, man. I was actually gonna ask you about that like a little later on, but being that you just said it, I'll go into it. Like, what were the things that you felt like you learned from her? If you could just like expound a little further as you were working with her, like what are some pointers you learned that now as you get ready to record your next album, you're like, you know, I'm gonna take some of that, you know, and I'm gonna borrow some of that, right? I'm gonna use that to help me out.
Yeah. So one thing about Rita that I've learned, just, you know, being in proximity with her as a writer, she is one of the best interline rhymers that I've ever heard. And what I mean by that is she knows how to rhyme the fourth bar with the second bar and the first bar with the third bar. So everything is interwoven and interchanging out. Like, for the most part, me as a writer, I'm typically a 1 bar, 4 bar rhymer. So I'll rhyme on the one and you won't hear the rhyme back into the 4. But with Rita, she's rhyming all the way through and it's so seamlessly, you know. So her interline rhyming skills and her cadence is what separates her from a lot of artists. It's kind of Black Thoughtish, if you will. So when I'm sitting here listening to her recording, I got the headphones on. I'm like, and I told her, I said, when she was working on it, on the album, it was 2 songs, Freedom, the second verse on that song, and I think it's the first verse on Feminine Rising. I said, those are 2 of the best verses I've ever heard.
Wow.
You know, literally, like from anybody, whether it's upper level or starting, you know, coming into the industry. So her interline rhyming patterns and her cadences, bar none, she's phenomenal.
Wow, man. That's dope. That's
Thank
dope.
you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
I wanted to ask, like, I'm so glad you brought that up, Neek, because there's layers to Rita's verses on this album, right? And I think this is not something new. I feel like you've been doing this for a while now. For someone listening to this album, what are some things you feel like people will miss in terms of the technique and the rhyming approach? Because the subject matter is definitely there, but there's some intricacies to how you layer your rhymes, right? Like, what are some things that you feel like people should probably, if you had to give a hint, like things people should pay attention for with your lyrics on this album or your rhyme pattern on this album?
Um, hmm. I mean, I definitely feel like some verses, hit harder than others, but just as a whole, I would like people to always just listen to everything. You know what I'm saying? Listen to its entire, just it's like wordplay. It's like it's fun to catch little things, and you know what I mean. So I don't want to like give it away, but for example, Real Men Cry Too. That second verse is just hella potent. I don't know, like something, was just really speaking to me. And then on Feminine Rising, I just something, it was like spirit was just on me. So yeah, just just in the zone. I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot to say that second verse too on Real Men Cry Too. Her verse, man. Yeah, I just need to say that. Crazy.
Indeed, we're gonna definitely talk about that track. I got time. I'm gonna go into the tracks on the album that really stand out to me. So let's go with the next question. Purpose, passion, magic, use it, mission, message, action, choose it. Purpose, passion, magic, use it, mission, message, action, move it. This is from the song Freedom, and I get the sense that there's a deeper meaning to the order of which these words are said in this hook. Can you talk about why you chose to recite these words in this particular order?
um Kind of like it's like a spell, like a magic spell. You know how you repeat the spell, a couple of times to make it potent. You know what I mean? And since we dealing with alchemy and high priestess, the magic, that's pretty much what it is. It's like just stirring up the magic. Like use your powers, use your words to create the magic.
Got it, got it. As I was listening to it, I felt like the words themselves also were like moving a direction, right? Like you start with the purpose, you start with the purpose, then the passion, which is kind of like together, then you create the magic, then you put it in motion, right? And then it leads to this mission and message. Was that kind of also what it was? Like moving in that direction?
Yeah, it's like steps. You know what I mean? You have to do them in order. So yeah, pretty much.
Dope, dope. So you have a song titled "My King" is one of my favorite songs on the record, and I mean, I say one of my favorite because there are a lot of favorites, but this one definitely is one of the first ones that stood out as I was going through it in the order from beginning to end. Now, this song details the positive attributes of your male counterpart. You give a lot of attributes on the song, but if you had to break it down to four core attributes that a king should represent today. And when we say king, obviously we're talking about the general understanding of a man today, right? Like if you had to break it down to four attributes that a king should represent today, what would you say are those core characteristics of a king?
Wow. Let's see. Courage, um, equality, um, loving, um, Compassionate. I'm gonna keep going. Four is like what?
Challenge you a little bit because you actually did this on the song, but I wanted to kind of hone it in a little bit more.
Condense.
Go ahead, continue.
Condense it. No, I get it. Yeah, it's so many things that make people's character, and so we need more men to live up to these attributes. And so they were like, it was like I was just affirming it. Those were like affirmations. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Thank you. So I want to jump back to the skit, right? No whack beats. It kind of comes out of nowhere. Like you're not even expecting this. Like I think there's like some conversation happening, but then you realize, oh, it's really, Rita critiquing this dude about his beats. Like, can you talk about why this track was placed on the album and the reasoning for it? Either one of you can go.
Okay. Well, Rita, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We would have conversations about production and just beats in general, and Rita would express a level of frustration about some of the beats that she was getting, especially in the beginning of us working together, because we haven't really decided whether or not we were doing a full project. So a lot of times people were sending her beats all the time, and she would, say, she just had this look of frustration, like it's nothing is moving me, like what is this? So kind of like how the producers just kind of like saying, hey, this is be something you'll be dope on, check it out, but not doing their due diligence and understanding what type of artist she really is. Like, how do you even come to a conclusion that this is dope for me?
Right.
So kind of with that skit, it was kind of like me forcing a record on her that she like, wait, this the beat right here? Like, what do you mean? And I'm telling her how dope it is, how good she's gonna sound on it. She's like, nah, that's not for me. And and kind of just being in the ego as a producer, like, okay, I'm gonna give it to somebody else. Don't worry about it. You'll be good. But kind of just talking about that relationship of when a producer does reach out and connect, it's like, know how to connect. You don't just send me anything. Like, listen to me, understand what type of artist I am, then connect. Don't just send me something because you see my name, going around the internet. What's the value here,
Indeed. Can I just say that even though the beat displayed on the skit is a whack beat, I feel like it can grow, like you could add stuff to it and it can work, like, so tell me how y'all even came up with that beat. Like, was the mentality like, yo, I'm gonna specifically create a beat that sucks, or like, how did it?
Yeah. Okay. We was in the studio because we was talking about the skit for a couple sessions, but we never did it. And when we were starting to wrap up, I was like, yo, Rita was like, yeah, we got to do the skit. I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, how can I make a terrible beat? Like, very terrible. So I was like, okay. And I literally just looked for the worst sounds I could find and just started pressing buttons. And what it was so funny, like when I was doing it, I could see the disgust on her face, like this is whack. I'm like, good, we get there, So I'm like, I'm pressing keys all out of tune. I'm just hitting synthesizers just because, like, it had no rhyme or reason for it. And I was like, yeah, this whack enough. She like, yeah, that's real whack.
That's really interesting because really, is that the mission, right? To create something that's whack. So funny hearing like the process of how you guys came up with it. Yeah, that's funny. So the beats on the album, as I said earlier, it really complements your voice and just your style as an MC really well, Rita. How do you know when a beat is perfectly crafted for your liking? Like, what are some things you look for to get that stamp of approval for yourself?
Well, in this case, I've always been a fan of Neak and his production, and so he has a soulful sound, and it just felt like home, and just I knew I could get in the groove on his production. But it just really depends, like I don't have really like a style that I, prefer necessarily. I've rapped on like all kind of beats. So I feel like it just has to be something that I like. But I definitely know if it's gonna work or not. Like I can listen to it before I even start rhyming, and I'll know if it's gonna work.
Got it. Yeah, and I noticed that you tend to pick a lot of soulful beats, and I mean, I love soulful beats. Like it's my thing. So is there an element of just like it, it finding your soul too, like fitting with, maybe the music that you grew up with, like the sounds that you were inspired by?
Exactly. Yep. It's the music that I grew up around, the music my parents played. So it's just already embedded.
Dope. So I wanted to ask you this question. This next question is for you, Neak. Can you tell me, what would you say was the easiest and most difficult part about producing this album for Rita? Like, so that's a two-part question, right? The most easiest part about it and the most challenging, if you had to explain the two.
Yeah, I think the easiest part about producing it was the fact that we were both on the same page. So we both knew what the objective was. We both knew the goal. We both knew that at the end of it, we wanted to make an album. So it was very intentional, from the start. So as we started making records, it's kind of like, what to make once you have something already done, what's missing, what you still need. So with the intentionality of trying to create an album, it made it very easy, from that perspective. I think if anything, as far as, I wouldn't say difficult, but challenging, is just knowing when to stop. You
Mm.
know, my whole thing was, I would always say, we have an album, we can keep going, or we can stop here. But ultimately, it was just about how she felt. So until we got to the point where, Rita was like, okay, I think I have enough, then we would stop. But because if that wasn't the case, I mean, we probably would have been still making records right now for this album, without that intentionality. So I think that's the biggest thing for any artist, because you're your hardest critic. You want what goes out to be the best music, and just knowing when to stop and when to say I have enough, and being comfortable and secure in that. It can be a challenge.
Very well said. What would you say were the types of sounds or music that you were pulling from or inspired by to craft this High Priestess album?
Soul records, soul jazz records. Sometimes before sessions, I would go to the record store and I would dig. I would go look for different records and search for different sounds to have on hand for the session. I just wanted, and I figured, as Rita was started to write and show, contextually where she was at. I started in my mind saying, okay, this should definitely go more of a soulful route, because she's speaking a lot of things from the heart. She's speaking a lot of things that that she normally wouldn't necessarily talk about. Being very personal, with her content. So the best thing for me is when you see an artist going that way, is to, if you're gonna bring the soul out, let's get the soul records. I'm digging from anything from 72 to 76, jazz, rock, soul, and just kind of just, pulling the sounds from there, and, chopping up the sounds from that point.
Dope. Well said. So another thing I want to mention, which I only found this out by reading the description on Bandcamp, is Rashid Hadi, who's also featured lyrically on the track Reality. He also serves as the executive producer on the album. What exactly did his executive producer role entail?
So, so Rashid and Rashid is pretty much the final stop. And what I mean by that is, we knew we were done, but we also knew that sonically, with the mixing and mastering, we needed his touch, because I mean, he's just a phenomenal engineer. He knows how to take the records to the next level. sonically. So we would have the rough drafts of the records, and then when we get the mixes back, we like, oh my God, it sounds like 10 times better. And he's just the final stop. He's that guy for me in my life that's like, no, you need another song, or no, this ain't quite done yet. So he kind of served in that capacity to say, okay, because when we first gave him all of the records, he takes usually about a week or two with the records. And he hit me back immediately, and he hit Rita back. He like, yo, this album is phenomenal. I'm about to start working on it right now. He said, I love it. And he was like, you don't need nothing else. You're good. So as an executive producer, he was that final stop. So the way the tracks came together, how they stopped, how they began, we came up with the track list together, me and Rita, but he the one who created the track list in terms of when songs stop, when they begin, and how they, are interwoven within each other. So he's that guy. He's that guy for real.
Yeah, his name comes up a lot in terms of, and it's so funny, I've never gotten a chance to interview him yet, but with so many projects that have come out recently, like his name keeps showing up, like he has something to do with certain projects, and it's always in a good light. What made y'all say, you know what, he's the guy for this executive?
To me, Rashid is just cold. You know what I mean? I would just leave it at that. He's just cold. I mean, why wouldn't you? He's that dude.
Indeed.
Yep. He understands music, and he doesn't have an ego with it either. He wants the best outcome. Like Rita said, he's that guy, man. He cares. He really wants the best music to come out. So he puts his all into it,
And he has the ear. There's like a professional engineer ear. He has that. So
dope. So Rita, you have a track on the album called Mommy Water, in which you say you are the daughter of. For those that may not know who Mommy Water is, like, can you explain who Mommy Water is and why you consider yourself like a daughter of Mommy Water in the song?
So Mommy Water is like the goddess of the sea, of the oceans. And we're all come from water, come from the womb, come from water. And so that's like my paying my respects to the ocean goddess, Yemaya, who's in Orisha, and just being like a feminine energy, and a mother goddess, and was like a daughter of her creation.
Nice. And I see that you recited it a lot in the song, so it felt like it was like really important for you to share your connection, right, to Mommy Water. So thank you for explaining that. So the other thing about that track, Mommy Water, that really caught my attention, in addition to the title, is the beat. Like, the beat is dope. Like, it has like really raw, repeated percussion sound. Like, let me ask you this, Neak. Did you know that the track would be titled Mommy Water before you made the beat? Like, how did that come to be?
Not necessarily. It was kind of, I wouldn't know the name of the songs or kind of the direction of the song until you bring the track back.
Got it.
So when I was making the beat, it was literally, I think the crazy part, and remind me if I'm wrong, Rita, I think that session, it was a rough day. I think I was trying to make like one or two beats and it wasn't working out. It just wasn't clicking. And then I came across this one record, and it was literally like a record that I caught a loop on it. I was like, oh, it just sounds dope to me. So I ran it through the SP 303 and kind of just got that, that lo-fi sound on it. And that was all I could add to it at that point. And Rita was like, okay, I'll take that. Let me get that loop. So I got it, looped it up just for her to write to. And then when she brought it back, she recorded to it, and I saw the whole vision right there. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to add shakers to this record. I'm about to go call my man Jeremy to add live bass on it. So once she laid the vocals and, and I was able to understand her pocket, the record in my mind just went there. So
Yeah.
it was literally kind of just that was very experimental, how that whole record even came together.
Nice. And as I was listening to it, like it sounds like water, like it almost sounds like flowing water. So that's why I asked you, like, did you know that it was going to be titled that? Like, did you craft it? So that's dope. Like that's the other thing too, like having the knack to know when a beat is enough, right? And you pointed out that Rita was like, okay, leave it like that, right? How'd
Mm-hmm.
you know, Rita, that like, yo, that's what I wanted, and I didn't want to add too much more to it? Like, how'd you come?
Right. So so again, the beats always lead me into the zone, into the topic or whatever. And so I heard the water in the track. You know what I mean? Like, and so it to me it's fire. Like I'm always cool with the bass, joints, but then when all the layers get added, it just makes me even more excited. So like when the bass came, I was just floored, like wow, like and so I mean, no, it doesn't need anything else, because I was even cool with it how it was. So it's like those layers just add more depth. And I think that song is really good, and it's like a chant. It's kind of like a prayer chant. And I have my homie Cher J, singing that chant to kind of invoke the spirits and pay respects.
Got it. So, Neak, I think it was also dope that you said you saw the vision. Like, how did you know? Like, okay, I get you now. Like, I'm gonna add to this to make it sound what we hear now.
So as a producer, a lot of times what I'm grateful for is a lot of times when I hear, I will make the beat just enough to get the vocals on there so it can breathe. And a lot of times, just off experience and just off, intuition, I start to hear different sounds. Like sometimes I'll hear the vocals get laid, I'll hear sax, or I'll hear live bass, or I'll hear guitar. So it's kind of leaving that space free flowing to allow for other elements to come on later. Like if I would have just left it the way it was, I mean, it would have been fine. I think it would have still been a good record. But why just make it good when we can make it great? Let's take it all the way there. So I'm literally, as she was rapping and I'm hearing the lyrics and the flow and the cadence, I'm hearing live bass as she's rapping. I'm like, oh my, I got to get bass on this record. So it's kind of just pushing the record to the limit as much as it can go without doing too much. But taking the extra step as well. It's a fine balance that you got to have. So once she laid her vocals, I saw the vision like immediately.
Oh man, that's dope. That's a skill set, man. So, Neak, the one track that you're featured on as an MC on this album is Real Men Cry Too. Why was that the only track on the album where you felt like the male voice on the song had to come from you?
Well, it was actually Rita's idea. She the one who asked me to get on the record. She had already recorded her 2 verses, and we would have conversations about who would get featured on the album. And she was like, "Yo, you got to get on this one. I feel like it's tailored for you." And honestly, when I made the beat, as I was making it, and we was in the studio vibing, I did hear no shade. I heard myself on it. I was like, yeah, I can get on this one. But it was only if it was, with her blessing, if she wanted me to be a part of it. So when she did, and when I heard what she wrote and how she tapped in, it inspired me to really, go back to a vulnerable state and say, why is this important, as a man? And, I mean, a blessing with Rita's, writing, she opened it up for that conversation to be had. So it was very easy and free flowing from there.
Dope. Rita, I have to commend you on this track because Real Men Cry Too, there's not a lot of songs from female MCs dedicated to the understanding and the compassion of men's emotions. What made you want to do a song like this?
Because it's just so we're in such a dire need for it. You know, I feel like with the younger generation, especially, they're distracted and they think, you know, that they have to be hardcore thugs and, you know, tote guns and just live this destructive lifestyle. And it's not true. And they really just need some therapy and a hug and to be loved. And so it's just kind of like a shout out to taking care of your mental health, and as a man or a boy being vulnerable to what's quote unquote not masculine or whatever. It's just like you have to open yourself up to be able to heal and not be angry all the time.
Indeed. Well said. Now, I believe the last track on the album, and you guys alluded to it earlier, Feminine Rising. I wanted to ask you all about that, and I wanted to really just tap into what feminine rising looks like in 2021 amidst the current pandemic and the atmosphere of challenges that you know we're experiencing today. What does a feminine rising look like today?
Well, it doesn't look like what they show you on TV. That's for sure. It looks like, I mean, I could just mirror it to my own life. It looks like having my own business, being an entrepreneur, you know, being steadfast in my spiritual and my holistic lifestyle, you know, being disciplined, being a married woman now, having business partnerships, leveling up pretty much, like really tapping into leveling up. This is not we're not playing show and tell. We're not playing who got the longest ponytail, you know what I mean, who got the most colorful hair. Like this, we're talking about real life, real you know, black economics, leveling up, positivity, upliftment, empowerment, all that.
So Rita, you said a lot. The fact that one of the key words you said was discipline. And it comes with balance. How are you able to balance all of this?
Whew, I don't know. No, I just take time out to breathe and live and have a good time. You know, it's not always work, work, work. Because also I'm a Virgo, and that's like a trait that we have is like to overwork ourselves. So I definitely just carve out time to just, you know, relax and have fun. But it's a lot of work involved in leveling up.
Yeah. Well, I want to give you a happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Birthday. And as you talk about Virgos and the work ethic of a Virgo, like I feel like, and you could probably answer this best, but like I feel like there's an element of how you say of comfort even in the work for Virgos. Is that true? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's where we feel most at home. Like we know how to get busy. We know how to organize and get structured. And like that a lot of Virgos, that's what their job and careers end up being. You know, it's like helping, you know, being somebody's assistant or just helping other people get their business in order.
Yeah. Service.
Yes, like, service. Exactly.
Yeah, I noticed that about some of the people that I know that are Virgos. Like, I'm like, it's like it makes y'all feel good to be inspiring or helping others, you know. Yes. And that's a very, very admirable thing, like, you know, to really recognize. So thank you. But I also, you know, it makes me curious to know, like, how do you find that time to just be like, you know what, it's time for me to just relax, or, you know, focus on self-care and, you know, aspects of just healing.
I mean, well, that's kind of where, when you asked me earlier about the breaks, that's part of it. I mean, you never can, like, I can't put a time limit on the break. A break for me is not necessarily a day or two. Like, that may be some years, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm doing different things. I'm trying different moves. Like I said, I've lived in different places, like, so I just keep myself busy. And so it's like, I have a lot of interest and a lot of things I want to accomplish. So I just try to mix it up, just to keep it spicy, but the job still has to be done.
Definitely. And when you said you lived in different places, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I should have mentioned this earlier. I always thought that you were from Atlanta because I know that was a scene that you were, very much a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, I've interviewed Star before, and I've interviewed um, Lyric Jones. I've
Mm-hmm.
interviewed Book Brown. And
Mm-hmm.
these, when I think about Atlanta, I feel like some of the dopest lyricists who are women all come from, well, not come, but I've either lived there or stayed there for a certain time. And I had this conversation with Lyric Jones, and she was like, wow, like she didn't even think about that. Like you all, I think, were in that scene around the same time. What can you say about Atlanta that has really helped to hone who you are today as an artist or as a creative?
So I spent about 4 years in Atlanta, and I was on the scene, on the music scene, and I met a lot of incredible people outside of even their artistry, just incredible people that I'm still friends with today. Atlanta was just very community based and very entrepreneurial. So it was a lot of Black entrepreneurs doing their thing, a lot of talented people. It was a melting pot. I don't even know really probably how many people are that really were from Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like most of us were from different cities from all over, from Detroit to California, Boston, DC. And so Atlanta was where we met. And the scene was just, it was bubbling at the time. And we all got to like collaborate and just kind of, blow that scene up at that time.
Indeed. Thank you for sharing that. I was always curious to know about like your experience out there. So it's dope to hear that. So first and foremost, thank y'all for taking the time to be able to build with me today on this new project and other aspects of your career. I wanted to ask both of you before we get out of here, um, what does completing this album mean for the next steps in your career? So you could answer, Rita, and also you can answer as well, Neek.
For me, I just think it's another stepping stone. Like, I'm so happy that I've completed it, but like Neek said, it hasn't even really started yet. Like, it's only been out 2 weeks. Like, there's still more work to do with this album, and I'm excited to do that. But I also know that once this is, all said and done, I'll be looking forward to the next project and to outdo myself again. So it's just, it's a moment in time that I want to, take the time to appreciate. But there will be, more projects to come, God willing.
Indeed. And I also want to say, like, the album that I mentioned earlier that you came out with, I think it was late last year, the Black Koala album with Rashawn Ahmad, like that wasn't too long ago, and then now we have the High Priestess. Like, does this set the tone for another album coming out without such a long gap, or is it just not you flow with it?
Aha! Who knows? No, I don't know, man. It won't be that long of a gap. I don't think, but I'm gonna just let this one ride. And like the Black Koala, that was finished prior to it being released, and so I was really happy that finally got released. But some things are out of my control. Like I couldn't control how long that took to come out. So just hope for the best.
Indeed, of course. So Neak, you put out. Oh man, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. Instad in 2020,
Yeah.
as I
Yes.
mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But is it possible we get a new project from you as well? Because I feel like the year we're like what? We're like going into the fourth quarter of the year, and we
Yeah.
have outside of this, obviously, we haven't gotten a solo project from you. Is there anything coming before 2021 is up?
Not sure, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a lot of work in the chamber. The pandemic has been a blessing. If there's one thing that I did, I recorded a lot of music. So I'm just kind of strategically, moving things as it need to go. Right now my focus is helping Rita with the High Priestess and pushing that forward. And I mean, I know she knows this. We always gonna keep working. So whenever we get to that point where she like, okay, it's time to lock back in, I'm ready to go. Um, but as far as what I got coming up, like I know I have another solo project that's already done. Just trying to figure out when the best time to release it. I have a couple of collaborative projects done already. With me, with production and also with writing. So there's a lot of stuff to come. I just want to make sure that everything gets its time and everything gets its proper promotion and marketing. I'm not really a big fan of just putting stuff out over and over and over and trying to force it. I'm kind of more of a let's slow cook it, let it sit out for a minute, let's push it, work it, boom, let me give you another one. So you definitely have some work coming from me, for sure, for sure.
Indeed. And I really want to get back to the idea that you've put out live projects, right? The Neak experience. Do you foresee a live experience or a live version to the High Priestess? Um, like based on your experience doing live projects?
I I would love that. If Rita told me she wanted to do that, we'll do it. So it's just one of those things that it got to make sense.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, right now we to me in my mind we still in the middle of a pandemic.
right.
So we have to do things responsibly and when it's safe. But there's always workarounds and ways to do it. But I mean, the album would be definitely phenomenal for a live experience. So, if when we get to that point and we figure out the best way to do it, I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. How have you all been actually approaching the 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 promotion of this album, like or even like the virtual live element or tours? Like what's been the approach with that? Because you did say, yeah, like we're still in the pandemic, so it's still kind of interesting how you navigate that. Like what's been your strategy?
Um, I would say just having a balance between both. I know with the live listening session that we had people actually be a part of it physically, but we also had the virtual element. So kind of meeting people where they at. Some people they want to get back outside. They're like, hey, let us in. We ready to go. Then there's some people who don't necessarily feel as comfortable. So we want to accommodate both crowds. And I think that the key is just taking it one step at a time and then personally seeing how we feel, as individuals, because we got to be mindful of our own health and our own safety as well. So just taking it one step at a time. This is not typical for a lot of projects where you're doing a lot of foreshadowing, 4 to 6 months out. But a lot of key things have been done already, building the content for it, shooting music videos, taking press photos and things of that nature to kind of just keep the conversation going. And then figuring out and intertwining the live aspect as we need to.
Oh, my last question for y'all. What are your favorite tracks on this album? Or if you had to just let me see if I could even narrow it a little bit. If you had to pick two of your favorite tracks, what would it be? All right.
That's a tough one, man. You got us right there already. I'm already like, come on, man.
Oh, two?
It could be two that you feeling today, and then next week it might change. I'm okay with that too.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
All right, I'm gonna say My King Is and Real Men Cry Too.
Good choice. I like that.
Man, I'm gonna say, okay, I gotta pick three. You gotta give me three.
You gotta pick two, man.
Oh, okay. I got an honorable mention.
All right, all right, cool. I gotta give you honorable mention.
Okay. My King Is, Reality, and AI Shadows.
Nice, nice. Wow, man. See, that's when you know, like, you guys put some valued effort in this album when it's so hard to pick favorites. So I want to commend y'all again for putting out such a dope album. I feel like this record, when you really look back, if people take a very serious look at projects that's come out this year, this record will stand out. And I wish you all nothing but success with your individual careers, but as this project continues to unfold and the success with it. So thank y'all again. And I'm gonna look forward. Like, what's next? What's the next video?
So the next video will be Bussin', and it'll be Bussin' next week. So stay tuned. Yep.
Coming with that fire. That's one of them hard tracks right there.
Yeah.
That'll be the first video next week.
What's one of your favorite tracks or your two?
Oh man, you got See, I knew this was gonna happen. I be asking the questions and they get thrown back. All right, let me where did I put my phone? Oh my goodness. All right, I'm gonna just go off the top. I think My King is definitely one of my favorites, and Real Men Cry. I got more like y'all too, but I'm gonna go with those two. yeah. Those are my standouts today.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This was an honor. I really appreciate it. It's always good to spread the love, spread the word. The new album is out. You can find it on my website also at ritajmusic.com. It's on all the digital streaming platforms. Please check it out. Buy the album. We got CDs, digipacks. We got merch coming. It's lit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You said ritajmusic.com, right?
Yes.
All right, let's put that up real quick. Make sure you go to ritajmusic.com and go check that out. And I know it's on Bandcamp as well. I encourage, the true supporters to go, purchase that album, support it via Bandcamp. And it's a really good project. I saw that you guys got some recognition on the website hiphopgoldenage.com too. I think it showed up in their top albums of the month list. So that's dope. Yeah, man. And I just want to encourage y'all to keep putting out that dopeness, keep sharing quality, creative, thought-provoking music that, inspires and uplifts. I see that's been a common thing with you all. So thank you again. And to all of our listeners, make sure y'all go to our website, outtheboxmedia.com, subscribe for free so you can be updated with all things Out the Box related. And, show us love there. And check out our Big Cartel page for merch, as well as our Patreon page to become a Patreon subscriber so you can get access to exclusive interview clips. Thank you to my guests again tonight. Until next time, I want to say peace, love, and light. Y'all stay focused, stay healthy, stay safe. We out. Peace.
Peace.